The battle lines over voting rights are drawn. Texas Governor Rick Perry is lashing out at the Obama administration after Attorney General Eric Holder announced that he will pursue legal action against the Lone Star State. Holder wants to require federal approval for any changes to voting laws in Texas, as well as other states with a history of discrimination. Now, Governor Perry says the administration is going around the Supreme Court's decision last month on the Voting Rights Act. That decision indeed struck down the provision requiring pre-clearance, and it sent the issue back to Congress. In a statement, the Texas governor says, quote, "Once again, the Obama administration is demonstrating utter contempt for our country's system of checks and balances, not to mention the U.S. Constitution." Well, joining me now is a lady who's going to help clear all this up. This is Danita Judge, staff attorney at the Civil Rights Group specializing in voter protection. Okay, let's first of all take a look at a new Marist poll, and it shows what the majority of voters are saying at this point on this. Nationally speaking, 53% of adults polled think discrimination in voting still exists, so it should be addressed by Congress. But in that same poll, it found 83% think that changing election laws to require voters to show identification before voting is a good thing, much like what they've done in North Carolina.
Well, I think many people think that it is a good thing, but what most people don't realize is that it is the underlying documents that you need to get to vote or to use a photo ID. Certainly, when you have people who don't have a birth certificate, people who have had and have very difficult times obtaining those types of documents, and additionally that those documents are often very, very expensive. So it's not only about having ID, it's about how do you get ID. But one of the things that has happened in North Carolina is that the photo ID law that they have enacted, that is waiting to be signed by the governor, is probably the most repressive in this country. That photo ID basically says you can't use a student ID, right, and you can't use a government ID.
Well, and can I ask you, the student ID, I mean, I know plenty of kids who go off to college, kids from New York who, for example, haven't driven a lot growing up, and they don't have driver's licenses and things like that. So that means their ID may be a college ID, and that won't work.
That won't work. That won't work at all. And I think that's why we're seeing in North Carolina this multicultural movement that is being led by the North Carolina NAACP and Reverend Barber and what they're calling the Fusion Coalition politics, which means that there's people from all ages, all races, all walks of life who understand the impact of what these laws will do to many individuals in that state and will really prevent them from being able to cast an election, and it prevents elections from being free, fair, and accessible.
Danita, what do you see as being the next step here? What's going to happen?
Well, you know, I see the next step is that the governor is going to sign the bill. And then, of course, we will watch the NAACP of North Carolina for their next steps. What is it that they would like to see done? Because they are representing a huge coalition of individuals. This is a huge movement that's taking shape. I am hoping that people throughout the country will start to look at North Carolina and seeing that you can make a difference, that your voice does matter, and that they will be pushing back. What the Department of Justice did yesterday was outstanding. What they basically said is that we're going to use every tool in our arsenal to make sure that we protect the right to vote in this country.
Okay, well, your voice much appreciated in this conversation, Danita Judge. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.